got the flu. All right, we will call the December meeting of the Park Board to order. We'll start with a very weird roll call, Jesse. May not be here.
Good afternoon. Go ahead. Miller?
Here.
Rushmeyer?
Here.
Schaefer?
Here.
Yeager?
Yes.
And Shea.
Here. Next, the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we have approval of the agenda.
So move, Yeager.
Second, Schaefer.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Next, we have the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all matters listed are considered routine by the board. It will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Still in there, yeah. Yes, any thoughts on the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second, Rushmeyer.
Do we still have to do this by roll call, Jesse?
Yeah. I think you can call it
Yeah, we can.
yourself.
No, we can do a call. Miller?
Yes.
Rushmeyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Yeager?
Yes.
Shea.
Yes. All right, that is approved. Next, we have the Lakes Area Skate Park here.
Hey guys,
How's it going?
good. How you guys doing?
Is there a little green light on the mic?
There is. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's better. Here we go. Perfect. Hey guys, some of you may know I'm Jake Reniker with the skate park. Came here last March, so it's good to be back. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm here to give you guys an update about the skate park and to talk about any potential funding, potentially. I hope so. Wait for that to get up here. Okay, yeah, thank you. So since our last meeting, we've been fundraising consistently, and we're continuing to make an impact in the community. Doing service work, putting on events, promoting extreme sports, doing lessons for kids, and overall just growing support for the skate park in the community. As you can see, there's some photos we've been doing there. Next slide, please. In that time, we've raised over $88,000. And since we met in March, we were at about $4,000. So we've been putting a lot of work in. And we're planning for future events currently. We're looking for grants, donors. We're also actually doing community skate park design sessions soon. Get the process going, get youth involved and community involved to design that. So we have a plan and we're sticking to it. Next slide, please. Amidst all of this, some big news struck this year. The state of Minnesota funded a skate park matching grant program. And that happened in the spring of 2023. And this is for skate parks specifically. And you guys got the bill in the meeting packet. You can check that out if you want. It has everything in there about it. So basically, the state set aside $4 million. And it sounds like there may be more funding in 2024, which is awesome. And the bill says that the state will match local government funds, and that's dollar for dollar matching, up to $500,000 or even $1 million, depending on the size of the park. We're shooting for $1 million. It's based on how big it can handle, and we want to go big. You know what I mean? And this is the first time it's happened in Minnesota, which is amazing that Minnesota sees skate parks as being something crucial for the community. So this matching includes pledged dollars by local government. It also includes the land, utilities, and parking lot that the skate park will go in. And there's no timeline to spend these funds, and the state will be accepting applications in 2024, so, for projects. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're wondering if you'd be willing to officially contribute Memorial Park for the skate park. And that's specifically the Mill Avenue parking lot there, closer to Q Street on the south side. Jesse crunched the numbers. Thank you, Jesse, wherever you're at. Thank you. The land, utilities, and parking lot are worth over $343,000. And that land valuation can be matched by the state. So essentially, it's free money if you guys are willing to contribute that land. Next slide, please. Thank you. We're also looking for any extra pledge dollars for the future. I heard maybe things might be tight, but our timeline is 2026. Could even do 2027 potentially, depending on how things sit. So the city could pledge these dollars for 2026, and it gives time to find the funds for the skate park. We would also continue to fundraise, looking for large sponsors and donors, other grants, local fundraising like we've been doing. And our inside sources, we have a guy working with the representatives, actually. He says our skate park is at the top of the list. So we're furthest along in the process. And we have the chance to be one of the first skate park projects to be funded by this grant by the state, which would be huge for Brainerd. And any pledge funds have a great shot to be matched by the state. Next slide, please. So funds allocated by the city would be a giant return on investment, huge return on investment. I know you guys like that terminology. A $300,000 pledge would be enough to make $1 million skate park. That's less than a 3-to-1 match. That will also create an amazing facility for youth that will be around for decades, making generational impact. And of course, there's little to no maintenance on this skate park. We could also plan for an endowment fund with some of the funds that we get, set those dollars aside to help with any future maintenance, so the city doesn't have to worry about that in the future, 10, 20,000, something like that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're wondering if you'd be willing to officially contribute the Memorial Park land to be matched by the state. We're wondering if you'd be willing to pledge any funds to be matched. Wondering if you maybe know of any ideas where we could get those funds, or any ideas to capitalize on this matching grant from other sources, potentially county or school district funds, because they can be also included in this matching through the state. And of course, we want to ask for your support if and when we go to City Council for their support with funding. Thank you very much for having me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this.
Thanks so much. Any questions? Comments? Kevin?
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Chair, just a couple of quick questions. Have you guys been kind of tracking along as you've been working on this? What do you think the construction cost, or what the overall cost to build is going to be, and what that is how it's trending, increasing in inflation, construction inflation?
Yeah, that's
since you've started.
A great question. You know, inflation's huge right now. We haven't, but the estimation that we got was from last year, and so it's fairly recent, and it was, I believe, $1,040,000, something like that. Now it probably went up a little bit, but you know, we have some wiggle room for sure.
Right.
So, good question.
That was just for pure construction costs, not ancillary, underground, or any of that kind of, that was just basically the concrete and.
I believe that covers everything.
Okay.
I believe it covers everything, groundwork and everything. As far as drainage and stuff too, I think that's part of that.
Okay. Lighting?
Not lighting.
Not lighting.
Not lighting.
Gotcha.
But, you know, park closes at 10 p.m. anyways, so,
Yep.
yeah.
Gotcha. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Troy.
I don't know that we can officially set that property aside because we don't even know if it's the park boards or the city, or the cities at this point, correct?
We did hear back. It's ours.
Oh, we did? Okay,
Cool.
okay. So I'm just looking at it, you guys have raised $88,000, which is awesome. Do you have somebody that plans to apply for this grant?
That's a great question. It's actually, it'd have to be through the city. So the state would be taking applications through local government. So our funds unfortunately can't be put in this match, but maybe potentially at the very least, 88,000, we have 88,000, you have 88,000, at the very least, but, and if we could find more funds through city council and maybe hit that 300,000 mark, that'd be great. But, yeah, good question. So be working with somebody through the city, I suppose.
And do you have an idea of size? I know before when we talked, is that size that's showing on that one screen, the reddened area, is that including parking for the skate park also?
That's a good question. That was kind of just like a rough drawing, but essentially, I don't know the size of that, but essentially the parking lot is 90,000 square feet, and the skate park is 20,000 square feet. So there'll still be a ton of parking lot left for softball or skate park, things like that. Thanks. Good question.
I think what you were driving at was the land, Jesse, maybe you'll answer this. The 343 grand, was that the land value of just where the skate park is gonna go, or was that the total land mass of the parking lot?
I think that was for the parking lot.
Okay.
But technically.
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
because we'd be dedicating the parking lot to the use of. the skate
Exactly, yeah,
park.
and
Okay,
further,
that's-
yeah,
That's all I was
exactly.
gonna ask.
Thank you.
And am I to understand that the other 300 grand cannot be, that is not a one-to-one match? Once it goes into your account or whoever's, right, like your 88 grand, that is not matched one-to-one, right?
Exactly,
Only
it's-
the funds that are funneled through a city,
Or government. Mhm.
some version of city government, right?
Exactly. Yep. I wish there was a way, but I don't think the state can accept that. I'm not sure, though.
Right.
Things could change, though, because in the spring session, things might change. The bill might change a little bit to accept certain things, but I guess we'll see. I can talk to Paul about that, too. He's our contact.
Right.
Good question. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
So you're looking for 600,000 total from the city, like the land plus 300 to get
Yeah,
that matched.
essentially, exactly, yeah, essentially, yes. And then we would come up with whoever else we needed to on top of that, so, good question. Thank you.
But the 343 is the value of the entire parking lot. Right. Not of that area. And so if you look at 15 to 20%, I think it would even be smaller than that reddened area. I think the first time you came to us, it was smaller, but maybe that whole reddened area includes parking for the skate park
Yeah,
as well. But,
essentially, yeah.
so that number might be different.
I think you could make the argument that, oh, sorry,
No,
please.
just that the whole parking lot will technically be dedicated to this, even though it'll have multi-purpose use, that the whole parking lot will actually be for parking for the skate park technically. So I could see how the 343 valuation makes perfect sense. And on that topic, they give us, so the state of Minnesota would give us 343,000 because of this valuation. So, on $1 million construction, we technically only need to come up with another like 300,000, 350,000 to get another 350,000 from the state. So
Exactly.
then we'd be pushed over $1 million in contribution from the state. Yeah. Obviously, it's great to get 1-to-1 on $1 million,
Yeah.
but if we wanted to get to the construction costs, I guess we'd only need to come up with only $350,000 more dollars. So
Totally.
a little bit more feasible than $700K, but yeah, I mean it totally makes sense. Yep.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
I have a question. What is What is your next big fundraising plan? I know you said you have some plans, but, or you're going to continue, but what would, just curious, like.
Yeah,
what
great
your
question.
next-
Yeah. So we got some big grants out there right now that we're trying to go for. That's one of the piece. One of them is actually the Burnix grant. We're hoping to hear back in January, and that's up to $20,000. And then some other ones coming down the pike. There's a community foundation through the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation. They're granting, and that's up to $30,000. So we know we're going to put our, throw our hat in the ring and see what happens. Other like smaller things. We have a dinner fundraiser we're planning in June. We're doing our barbecue for the kids and maybe raise a few $100s there. But a big thing we want to do is actually once we have the plan set in place, which we're hoping within the next year, the actual design, that's going to be $10,000. We'll pay out of that, out of pocket from everything we have. That's part of the $1 million too, is the design and the construction designs and stuff. So essentially, once that's happened, we're planning on potentially naming the park. And I think you mentioned last time that'd be okay to you guys. I'd love to hear thoughts on that, though, again. But, sell the name for $100,000. Sell the obstacles for $5,000, $10,000 each, and there's permanent branding from Cub Foods, or whatever it may be at Cub Foods. Do you hear this? Essentially, basically, selling the obstacles, 10, 20 obstacles, and then putting permanent branding next to each obstacle for funds. So there's a plan kind of out through the future. Bricks and things like that, too. So, yeah. Thanks.
Have you connected with Sourcewell at all?
Good question. So I have. Unfortunately, we might be able to do something through Brainerd Community Action. But basically, we have to be an official nonprofit with our own number. We can't be under an umbrella. But maybe we can work something out. So, anyways, good question. Thank you. And unfortunately, there are some sources that we have to be an actual nonprofit. Yeah. Thanks.
Andrew?
Right? Oh, Dave.
Did you get clarification on whether or not the bathrooms and stuff that we've installed, whether or not that can be used for matching funds?
That can be, yeah. And that is part of the $343,000.
343,000, okay.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Expensive bathrooms finally paid off for one.
That's great.
Anything else?
So, quick question, just dumb question for, I'm not sure for who it's for, but what does the hypothetical dedicating the land actually look like? I mean, what is the actual mechanism we would be using to do that? Is that some version of a promissory note? If the skate park goes, there it is, it's yours. Do we get it back? If it doesn't go, I just have no idea what that looks like.
Good question.
So somebody smarter than me is going to probably have to answer that. I'm assuming that's probably a question for the city attorney, of what that looks like to dedicate the land to you on
That's
some
awesome.
type something, but.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we've ever done that before. So the park board has the authority to determine what happens with that land. I mean, we're not gifting it over, so we're just dedicating it for a purpose. I would assume that it's just a decision, a motion from the board probably justifies that, but we should probably get a clarification from the attorney. But I would assume, given what the charter says about your abilities within the land, your making a motion to set that aside for that purpose should be enough. But and maybe we need clarification from the state as well, from
Through the terms of the.
Yeah, good question, yeah.
Grant.
yeah, I would,
What that looks like, yeah.
but I would assume that given your authority, that's all that would be needed.
Right.
But I'm not an attorney.
Mr. Chair,
Jesse.
so that kind of echoes what I was thinking there. It probably is a question for what is required of this grant program. My inclination is something along the mayor's comments is just setting aside the area, not necessarily actually deeding property over to them.
I have one comment too. So would we be able to get the parking lot resurfaced in this whole process or like redone? That's like something we need to do. So maybe it could be kind of like balled into I mean, right? Thinking outside the box here, we could all,
And according to the grant,
yeah.
This is
any,
how the 300 grand got into the budget for next year, was this whole thing.
it's something, it depends what you guys want to do with the resurfacing and stuff, but
Yeah.
technically, that would be, yeah, like you said, an extra cost. So what's in the bill, it says that any road work done, like entrances and exits and things like that, anything of that nature, repaving, whatever it may be, affiliated with the skate park, could be matched from the state also.
Okay.
Yes, and then I'm not sure how that works. I think, and essentially what you do is you would put the money down for the skate park would happen, and then you would get, the city would get those funds back after the skate park's built. I'm sure you guys know about that, but yeah, so.
Because when you first presented this, I believe last year, you said it could be backdated, right? So the money that was spent on the bathrooms could apply to this. Do you know how far back we can backdate?
Good question. I think it's any crucial facilities.
Okay.
Like restrooms, a parking lot, things like that, that are just there for the skate park, yeah. So it'd be awesome if you could include other things like a baseball field or something, but it's just the skate park stuff. Yeah, good question.
Andrew,
Right.
are you guys currently working on becoming a nonprofit? 501?
Great question. Not yet, but maybe that's something that we'd think about. So,
It's $600.
Oh,
It's
wow.
very easy to do. It's very manageable.
Yeah.
well, there it is. Then maybe
It's not
that's the
hard.
case.
No.
It's not
Yeah.
hard.
Probably gotta get a board and 3 people or something like that and such.
Yeah, the biggest issue with it is just the tax part of it. Every year that
Okay.
you gotta pay taxes and have an accountant.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's
I
way
mean, you
easier
have
than
to
people
have
think it is.
some meetings and you have to, show minutes and some different, but it's simple.
Okay.
It's easy, and with what you're doing, it seems like the right fit for what you guys are trying to accomplish. And, it might make some things easier moving forward, I think.
Yeah, good question.
With
All
all
right,
the
good
work that
point.
you guys have already put in, I think this is probably a small task
Okay. Awesome.
for that. But,
Thank you, Troy.
yeah.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Mayor Dave.
Yeah, you can probably find some funding for that as well.
Perfect. That'd be great. Great.
Assuming we'll break this up into several parts, I'd certainly be willing to make a motion to direct staff to at least take the next steps of discovery, to fret out the legal side of what we would need to do and what that process might look like to meet the terms or the conditions of this upcoming grant. And with that, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I just have one, and this is probably a really dumb question. So if we dedicate this parking lot to this skate park, I just want to make sure that that doesn't in any way contradict other things that are going on in the park. If there's a softball tournament on a weekend and a skate park thing going on a weekend that.
It's like you can't park
I
here
mean,
kind of thing.
Right,
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to it, but I just want to make sure that, it's dedicated to that, one for accumulating funds from these grants, and
Yeah.
that also is a parking lot used for other reasons. also.
Yeah, good question, yeah, and that's something I can look into too, talk to Paul a little more about who helped write this grant with the representatives, but that's a good question, like how much, if we have a giant skate park that's used for multi-purpose, like how much of that can we, like, is that what you're talking about? Like how much of that can we have matched, or
Well, just that there's not any,
like restrictions for
hey,
parking?
you can't park over here,
Yeah,
you're too
no,
close to the
I
skate
don't
park.
think, yeah.
I don't either, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate.
Hey, it's
here.
great, I'm so happy you brought it up.
So,
Yeah, but that's a great question, though, seriously. It really is, because, I mean, yeah.
I would imagine it would just be the parking, or like the skate park, not the rest of the parking lot. So if there was a tournament, it would just be like shared parking, whoever gets there first kind of a thing.
I would think so. I just,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's also a question, Jesse, for the city attorney as well, but
Great question.
I don't think it's an issue. I want to make sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you gotta cover all your bases in case, get there and all of a sudden it's like, wait, I thought we talked about this or something. Yeah.
That's part
Thank
of
you.
what we have our recreation staff is to help coordinate a lot of these events and tournaments and stuff, so.
Cool.
Cool. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it very, very much.
Awesome
job on
progress.
Thank you so much.
Nice job.
Thank you, guys. It's great to see you all.
Yeah, take care.
Merry
Take care,
Christmas.
too.
Happy holidays.
See you later.
We have no unfinished business, which is, I think, another record for us. So we'll move on to new business item 8A, community ed requested budget. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did send out a message letting everybody know that the community ed was requesting an additional $2,000 over 2023's budget amount for a total of $15,000 for 2024. We did include that in the operational budget request as it was going to be reviewed by the council before this meeting. The levy was approved as it was, including this dollar amount, but we do need to get an approval here before we can authorize community action for that full $15,000 amount. So similar information that was presented at the previous meeting that they presented on with the additional dollar amount. And I can answer any questions you have. Excuse me.
Questions, thoughts for Jesse?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead, Kara.
I don't know if I'm reading this wrong or I missed this before, but why is baseball and softball so much in the negative for the amount of money that we're bringing in? Is anyone else worried about that, or is that normal?
I think one of the things that she brought up was that they have to look at how much money they get donated and their registration fees also. I think it's because they have to pay umps every game and they have field maintenance. So it's that baseball and softball both, I think, are
Right.
behind the 8 ball there. And I think that was part of her plan, was to look at their registration fees and some of those other things that, if you look at soccer, you don't have those kinds of fees associated with it, but
So it looks like they're gonna raise the price by $10 for fees. So I don't know, I guess we can see what happens next year, but I just was kind of alarmed by that. A big difference, but maybe I didn't have to be, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the turnover there put them behind the 8 ball a little bit too, from what they said a couple months ago. It's like they're just kind of scrambling to get next year sorted, but not really have a plan yet for long term.
if I may, Andrew?
Yeah.
I think also when we look at the big picture of this, and when we first moved into this format, it's really a small price to pay for what we've given up as far as, if we took these programs back and tried to run them, that cost would be substantially more than what we're paying for this and for the YMCA. And I think we're third year into it, and they're still trying to figure out what their costs are, what their fees are, and she is new. I think she was hired not this last summer, but the summer before, so, still coming into the school district and, working with that and in the 2 different cities, and so I think it's probably tough for them to try to put a stamp on, this is what it's gonna be, and this is how we have to do it, and so growing pains for them as well, and I think overall, small price for us as a city as a park board to pay for these programs.
Yep, no, I wasn't saying we should take them back. I was just surprised by deficit there. So
I think along with the growing pains, is really just making sure that, obviously this came to us a little later than we had anticipated when we were talking about an increase in, ask. And, when we were talking about actual usage for these programs and things like that, having more details and more definition, but making sure we're making those asks, obviously they're coming to us asking for money and we don't entirely know some of the time, but if we have things in mind, we need to make sure we're able to ask them in an appropriate amount of time so they can find us the answers. And I think same for the inverse in this relationship. I would just prefer that they ask us for the money a little bit more in advance as well. I understand, we're coming in, but, we have had a pretty significant amount of time since they spoke to us before. So just trying to iron out the growing pains and making sure we're asking the appropriate questions when they come and trying to make sure that, the details that we want to know and things like that are a little bit more outlined, and so they can provide us with a lot better metrics every time they present to us. So if they need to make another ask of $2,000, we know exactly why they're spending that money. Because again, last time, it was, traveling umps make this much. It's hard to pay. Again, it makes the ask a little bit more definitive, and we have a better idea as well. So I agree with the growing pains, and we just want to try to iron this out. But yeah, if we were to pay for something like this, significantly more expensive. So I like the program as it is, but we just need to hash it out a little bit better. So we know the financials and the details, but also, again, make those asks as the approvers of those, of the money, so.
Dave.
Jesse, could you do us a favor? I believe that they are required to get their basic numbers to Baxter earlier in the year, sometime in either March or May. Could you do us a favor and reach out to Baxter and find out what that is? Because I believe last time I checked, it was somewhere either March or May when they were required to have their numbers to them. I think that would be beneficial for this group, is to have the initial numbers coming in much sooner in the year, and then any of these changes that need to be made could be done prior to the final meeting of the year.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah.
Anyone like to attempt a motion?
I would make a motion to accept the $2,000 increase that they're asking for.
Yep, second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is approved. Item 8B, the 95% ARPA plans. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the packet, I included the 95% plans for the three projects. I think they generally reflect an awful lot of what the comments we've received to this point have been. So we're kind of ready to kind of put a stamp on it to get any final revisions in here before we have the set for bidding. I have not gotten the last of the numbers I need to put together a full estimate. I will highlight though, in my preliminary numbers, putting something together. I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to be able to get all three done within the budget. It's going to be really, really close, but I can't say for sure. I do need to get some more numbers before I can final estimate. But as of right now, I'd like to just get any final comments from the park board, if there's any final revisions they want to see, or if these plans look good as they're shown, and we can start writing plans for bid.
Cool, sounds good. Just go park by park. I guess does anyone have anything that stood out before we dive in? All right, let's start with JC's. Yeah, so I think our big thing last meeting was the path, and then the trees location relative to the path. Anything else that changed at all, Jesse?
No, I did have to tweak the path around the building. They had it as asphalt, and it's going to be really tough to tie that into the slabs outside the door. So I did have them change that to concrete that wraps around the building. The rest is generally the same.
Cool. Any thoughts on JC's?
I was just gonna say, I looked it over and I feel like they got most of everything that we talked about last time. So there was some compromising in there from what we all wanted from the width of the path and the material, but I think the compromise was found and these plans seem to embrace what we talked about, at least from my recollection and my notes. So I was good on this one.
Did this include the removable poles in the walkway down by the parking lot?
2?
The bollard?
Yeah.
We're gonna just install that with our maintenance staff.
You guys are putting that in?
Yeah, we'll put something in there after the path is done.
Cool. Next is Lum Beach. I don't think we had much other than the fishing pier, getting that tied into the accessible parking.
I think if you go to the next slide, looks like there's a walkway up to the shower building.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't grab the other sheet with it. That does tie into the restroom building.
That was gonna be my question.
I think that's it right there, isn't it? In that,
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a
that's-
different sheet that shows it going all the way up. This one doesn't show that.
yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, that was gonna be my question, Jesse, is, just to make sure that the scope of work includes that, the continuance of that sidewalk up to the bathrooms, like we talked about last time. It just appeared to be missing from this set of docs.
Yeah, there's a different sheet in this that shows it going all the way to the restroom, and it does have a note there that's kind of a field fit that will go around trees and stuff like that to exit.
This is going to be really nice. Cool. And then we've got Lum Park Campground. I think there's a new spot.
Turnout.
Any thoughts on this one?
I'll note that there was 2 spots we were looking into to add from the previous discussion. We were able to accommodate one of them. One that we weren't able to do to be right between the first and the second on the left. If you're going through it, we weren't able to fit the spelt in there without impacting the canopy like the trees. So we use a tree or 2 to accommodate that one.
I just have a question. This is covered in ARPA funds?
Yeah.
This? Sweet.
I will note the campground was number 4 in the priority list. So
Yeah,
if we're
that-
not able to fund all 4.
It depends on
this would
how far it
probably be one.
stretches, but.
Yeah, this just definitely want to make note that this was the lowest on the priority list.
That's why we did them with alternates, just so we'd have breakpoints on the money. Or broken them out separate, yeah.
Once I have a better estimate, if there's some significant concerns about funding, I'll probably bring it back to the next meeting with the estimate and see, is it something that we want to just look at removing the campground or just removing some scope, like, for example, the sidewalk going from the restroom building down to the beach. We look at cost saving measures elsewhere to be able to accommodate it, or to take away the campground. But I'll have more information as I get that estimate prepared. As well as, we did have some savings with the Kiwanis tree clearing, so there's gonna be some available funds from that too.
Excellent. Any other thoughts on these plans? Cool. I think we'd be looking for a motion to approve all 3 then.
I'll make a motion to move ahead to continue on with the plans to 100% completion to, in anticipation of bidding. So motion to approve what we see here to move forward.
Second, Rushmeyer.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those are approved. Next is the public forum. We'll open the public forum here at 4:40 PM. And no one is here. It looks like no one is online. So we will close the public forum at 4:40 PM. Go on to staff reports. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be very brief. Hiring update, our administrative specialist will be starting tomorrow. So she will be up online for the next meeting. Her name is Kathy. Our recreation specialist, we did offer the position and they did accept. We're still working on the background check onboarding process. Hopefully shortly after the new year, that person will be coming online with us as well. As for tour activities, the registration is still open. Unfortunately, the challenge is really making ice for the rates. And I know our staff has been scrambling best they can to try and get water to freeze when it's above freezing. One thing they're going to start working on is starting to flood overnight. We do have the temperatures overnight freezing. Let's see if we can't get some ice to form that way. Yeah, we're trying to come up with solutions to make this work. So we're still working our way through that. The Buffalo Hills Park sign, I know was brought up at the last meeting. It was taken down by staff because it was. They did pick up the materials and are working on rebuilding that frame and sign. So the sign itself is in good shape. It's just really getting the frame and stuff rebuilt. So they're working on that now. And then they did clear trees over at Kiwanis and did a lot of trimming up there. So if you haven't been up there, take a look at that. Then I'll just highlight the street make restoration plans. Most of the clearing and the brush cutting is pretty much complete. I believe they were doing a lot of rip wrapping last week in the river as well as those log rip ponds. So they're really progressing pretty quickly. Again, the weather has really helped them as well, moving that forward. We'll still have to wait till spring to do kind of reestablishment and stuff like that, but things are moving really well. If you haven't been over there to take a look at those view sheds, seating without leaves, they look really nice. So take a look at those as well. But other than that, if there's any other questions.
I have a question about the Buffalo Hills sign. Of course I do. So moving forward, when we replace signs, weren't we going to put a piece of concrete or, I don't know if it's concrete.
Yep.
Is it concrete? Yeah. So is that part of the plan then? So will it be spring or can we do that now? Is the ground frozen?
No, we'll have to wait till spring to put the slab in there, but that is our
Okay.
plan. Is once
Okay,
spring
great.
comes around, we'll put the slab.
Okay, thanks. And the sunset is beautiful. If anyone can see it, you should look outside.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Sorry, it's not part of the meeting.
Squirrel.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jesse?
Can we back up a little bit? I did have a question, but up a little more. Right there. I just curious, the recreation specialists and the other administration, are they local? Or are they did they apply from out of town? I'm just
They are not. So our administrative specialist is actually coming back to us from Nebraska. She had worked for school districts in that area for a long time, running the athletic department. I think she was in charge of a whole lot of the athletic department. So very familiar with activities and registrations and through that. The recreation specialist is from the area, but not necessarily the Brainerd area. Excuse me.
Okay.
From Minnesota.
Okay, just curious. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, I'll move on to board member reports. John.
Nothing to report.
Troy.
I was just gonna report on our meeting with Mr. Thiesing from the county sheriff's department. That, Jonathan and Jesse and I met with a couple weeks ago, I think it has been now, and, we still have to meet with the city attorney regarding the ski loons and our contract, and, some of the discussion was basically from his standpoint, if we could pretty much put anything in the contract that we wanted. And, I mean, if they don't agree with it, then they just don't sign it. But that gives them a little more teeth into at least coming back to us and saying, hey, they're not following what you guys had said in your contract, and, you know, so then, and also that it would be, if we decide to go down this path again, you know, that maybe that we said, well, 1 day a week, or we could decide all of that. It's this many days a week, and that you stay, you know, this far away from resident docks. And Jonathan had brought up a good point that, well, what if they just brought their own floating dock and put it out in the middle of the lake, and put their jump out in the middle of the lake? What, you know, he said, they can do that. And if they do that, then, and they're being troublesome, if you will, with residents, they have to apply through the sheriff's department for an event. So if, you know, they wanted to have an event at Lum Park, you know, for their show, not their practice, they could just say, well, no, we're not gonna do that. And he was looking at it from both perspectives, as well as, you know, that, you know, the landowners have to be good. And my point to him was, my biggest fear, and that's what I told them 2 years ago, was that all of this not meshing and getting along is the safety of the children. You know, if you got landowners out there, lakeshore owners placing their boats in paths of skiers, and, you know, it, at some point, you know, one kid getting hurt is too many. And we talked about the, you know, just the ramp being out there and kids playing on and under it during off hours even, and getting hurt. And, you know, so there's some issue. There's definitely some things for us to talk about before we just go into another contract. And, so it was, I thought, a really good meeting, just in the fact that, you know, we can put some teeth to what happens on the water in the contract that we write, and hold them accountable for it. And if they want to find a you know, a landowner or a lakeshore owner that would allow them to have their stuff by their property, nothing we can do about that. Only thing we would control is event permits for Lum Park. But I think the other part of that is, we kind of talked about how much they've grown. And at some point, when is Rice Lake too much for 4 days a week? Or 200 kids trying to ski, you know, in other lakes? You know, at some point, I think the ski loons are gonna have to look at this and say, is this body of water conducive to us doing this 4 days a week, with this many kids? And, you know, so, we still have to meet with the city attorney, and then, we'll bring back what we figure out from there. But, it was a good meeting. It was very informational. We have Jesse put together some bullet points, for us that, we can share with you guys as well, as far as some of the stuff that we came out of that meeting with.
If I may, Andrew. First of all, Jesse, if you could resend the link for the city attorney, I can't reply to any of the, I still can't reply to any of the times. Second, yeah. I mean, to Troy's point, my takeaway from this was that I feel like we're in a position to make an agreement happen. We're the best people to do it. We're the best equipped to try to work through this organization, whether it's moving it off the lake or setting timeframes or setting growing pains. I think we are the people that have the ability to do this. Again, it does feel like it can just become the Wild West if we don't, because they are allowed to use the lake. If they bring their own equipment out there, we can't stop them from doing anything as long as there's no misconduct or malfeasance. They can go out there and practice, and then we can just lose their events. You know what I mean? They can go out there, spend 3 or 4 days a week if they want to, and if they don't do anything wrong, they can't be kicked off the lake, and then we also don't get their shows. So finding a creative way to build a contract, work with the people, the residents, and the organization, and consider a future for the program as well. I think we're the people that are equipped to solve that problem. Again, I understand a lot of us don't want to have that responsibility, but I think just letting it go and then just allowing, not setting parameters and coming to some sort of agreement might be a failure. But obviously not our responsibility to do such, but I do feel like we're equipped to figure it out. So, and that was, again, my takeaway from it was, yeah, whatever. We can let them do it if they want to, and the residents can, use the water the same way, and they can go out there as many times as they want. We just lose a great program, the shows, and if we can't come to some sort of agreement and, keep people safe out on the lake as well. Because, again, laws governing the water are very vague, and so these folks can kind of go out and do what they want, and the residents can use the water the same way they want to, and put up obstacles and things like that endanger people. And I just feel like it's an escalation that we have the ability to shutter. I mean, again, the Skeelans don't have to use the lake if they don't want to, if they don't have the agreement, but we can also try to build a future with the organization and maybe and move them to certain lakes or work with these folks and the residents as well. So again, the eye-opening part was the lack of control that we have over practice. Again, the sheriff's department flexing their event permits on these guys. I mean, it's one of those things, like maybe it's amount of power that you don't even want to talk about, because if these guys are well above board and are well within the laws that are incredibly gray, it would be tough for them to even deny an event permit if they wanted to spend time on the lake. So coming to some sort of agreement still at the top of mind for me, and again, I think we're the people equipped to do it. So but again, meeting with the city attorney, and then yes, Jesse, if you please could send that again. I just can't reply to any of the time slots. So
I think the other part of that is we'd have to take a real concerted look at the residents of the lake as well, that we have to keep them in mind. That's 4 days a week.
it's a lot.
If I lived on the lake, that's something that I think is.
I 100% agree with you, and that's what I mean when we're able to craft an agreement, and we're the, again, being the mediator and the middleman in all of this is kind of, again, it does take a lot, but working through this with both parties and trying to find a good middle ground where we can have a good agreement. If it's not possible, it's not possible, but I think that if there was anyone that can do it, it's probably us. So, but keeping all of that in mind and making sure the folks are taken care of that live on that lake, and that the organization is able to have a set of parameters that they can follow, that, again, is a little bit more descriptive and a little bit more enforced and has a little bit more of a contingency built into a contract, would be to everyone's benefit, including the city and to the residents as well. I mean, we have certain things, exact things that we can point to where the law is a little bit gray in a lot of elements, so.
And I think also the contract itself, with us placing a bullet point in there that we can amend or discontinue a contract at any time without any reason. And so I think that's a point that we have to also bear in mind. So I see another special meeting or two coming down the chute here for us sooner than later, but where we can talk about these issues. One more person to meet with, and I think then we can dig our teeth into it a little bit. All I have.
Cool, thanks. Kevin?
This is my last meeting with the park board, so I just wanted to extend my appreciation, first of all, to Mr. Bedell, who reached out to me several years, I don't know how long ago that was, 4 or 5 years? I don't know, it was a long time. And quite some time ago, and invited me into this adventure. I have the utmost appreciation for you, Dave, and for your working with us this entire time. It's not fun work a lot of the time. Also, and the city council and city staff that has worked with me throughout this entire duration of time. I'm super proud of the work that we've done. Have nothing but good things to say about my current members, as well as the past members as well. And when I look back at just what we've accomplished in a relatively short time, I am super proud, and I feel the momentum going in the right direction. And I have not one bad thing to say, and I'm not leaving on negative terms whatsoever. I just have a lot of demands on my time, and there are other parts of the city which I feel could use my time as well. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that there's not one fiber of anything negative that's leading me off of here. I will say also that, in my opinion, the biggest change to me that I'm the most proud of is when I first came on this board, I've sensed virtually instantly a sense of mistrust and a corrosive relationship between the park board and the city council. And I can honestly say that to me has probably been the most dramatic change, as I feel like the city council and the park board, while we're not always in 100% agreement, but are at least working together in a way that is productive and gives both entities a voice in the future. And so I'm super proud of that, as well as many other projects that we've done. Huge amount of success. So thank you to everyone, and you guys are in more than capable hands, as I'll be moving on and doing some other stuff. But I'm not leaving the city. I'm just putting my wingspan somewhere else for a while. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for your time.
Absolutely.
And,
It's been a pleasure.
You've been a huge asset to this board since you've.
Thank you,
come
Troy.
on.
Appreciate it.
It's been wonderful working with you.
I'll just add, thank you, Kevin, for everything you've done. I think the master planning alone, you've saved the city tens of thousands of dollars, and we'd still be halfway through if we had consultants. Like, it's taken us 9 months to do a beach. So
Sure. And if able, I will still happily provide my pro bono design work. If
Oh,
able.
be careful what you say.
I know. So, I said if able.
and just, I think, as a board, I think we should all be really proud of what we've accomplished this year and over the past few years. We've gone from, hey, we've got some parks with stuff, we should make them nicer, to here's our vision for every single park. There's berms, there's fewer bathrooms. We have an idea. If somebody comes up and says, hey, we want a skate park, hey, you know what? We've got a parking lot that none of us like. Why don't we give it to you and get free money? That's pretty cool. But also just the budget as well. To Kevin's point, having a better relationship with the council, that starts with us knowing what's in our parks. We all spent the time to go to every park and catalog every bench, every picnic table, every light post. It was not a small order, but it's led us to a really good spot. So I think we should all just be proud of where we've come. And I think the end of this year is a good time to look back at how far we've come. So it's been an awesome year. That's it for me. Kara?
Yeah, what you guys all said. Yeah, thanks for everything Kevin, being on our board and everything. So, yeah, big shoes to fill. Is there anyone coming?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We always do.
It's been a good year, guys.
Absolutely.
Dave, anything?
Oh my gosh, I get the final word of the entire year with you guys. I just want to thank you. You know, from my own perspective, I share a very similar view that Kevin has, is that when I first came on to the park board, it was because the last council representative said, I'm done. I want to be done with the park board. And I came on thinking, I like parks. That's what I came on thinking. And then I realized, holy heck, we have a lot of stuff and a lot on our plate. And to watch this group expand and really go from a group that shows up on a Tuesday and stamps a few things and leaves, to a group that is literally in the parks, literally cataloging concrete. Cataloging concrete. I want to just say that again. Cataloging concrete and benches and trees, and it's gone to places that I wanted to see it go, and I'm really happy to see it be there. And Kevin, you were a leading man in that role, you know, to throw a little stuff towards your acting days. So I really appreciate everything you've done. You got big shoes. We'll find the right people to step up. But everyone else on this board has done a fantastic job as well. So we're still in really good hands, and we'll continue to move forward. But having said that, you're not gone. You'll be back. You'll be back. I know you too well.
Probably.
Merry Christmas.
And with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
That'll be me.
Yeah, your
Last one.
meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Same sign, we're adjourned. I never actually used this.